My guest today is Jimmy Clyde. And before Jimmy became famous as the mayor of McGee, Mississippi, he attended Provine High School in Jackson, Mississippi, and went on to graduate from Ole Miss. And he was a year ahead of me, but I had the good fortune not only to know Jimmy at Provine and at Ole Miss, but to learn lessons from him about loyalty, music, dedication, honesty, and perseverance. Sounds almost like a preacher, don't you, Jimmy? We
Far
also
from it.
played we also played a lot of music together that helped us pay for our college education without too much in student loan debt. Welcome, Jimmy, and thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
So, where are you originally from, Jimmy, and how did you end up in Jackson?
Actually, I'm originally from Pennsylvania, if you can believe that. My dad worked in the steel mills in Pennsylvania, and work was really tough, and he got laid off a good bit. And my mother lived in Jackson, and her mother got extremely ill. So we boarded that 1948 Chevrolet and headed back to Jackson when I was one.
Oh
So
man.
Jackson has been my home forever, I guess, until we moved to McGee in the early 70s.
Well, what made you decide to attend Ole Miss, Jimmy, and what was your major?
A lifelong dream, Jim. I've always wanted to attend Ole Miss, and my major actually was business. With I specialized in personnel management, but I got that from going down that catalog. If you remember, they had all the majors listed, and I just ran my finger down there, and it stopped at personnel management. So that's how I ended up with the degree in business.
Do you happen to remember how much your first semester's tuition was?
Actually, have a receipt. My mother made me a scrapbook when I got married of everything she kept. And I remember my student ID number was 79615, and the receipt to the bursar was $183. It had to be more than that, but I guess we paid on time. But we
Well,
always paid because I stayed, but it was $183.
and that probably was about right if you add your $100 music scholarship in there.
Exactly. That's what it was. So that's
Because
what I paid.
mine was 270, and that was a year later. And that was
Right.
with that $50 taken out that Jimmy Ferguson gave me to play in the band.
Exactly.
I think
That's
that worked out to be almost a dollar and well, maybe a dollar a day. I don't know, but maybe not that much.
that's right. But we thought we were getting NIL money, didn't we?
That's right. Hey, $50 to me was big money back then. But
Exactly.
I I didn't ask how mom and daddy came up with it. They just did uh, for the first year or so anyway. And after that, I was sort of on my own. Now, did you always think you wanted to be a city administrator, or is that something you just sort of fell into?
I did fall into it. I had no clue. My first job actually was at Universal Manufacturing in Mendenhall, which is about 10 miles from McGee. And then a job came open in McGee, which is where my wife was originally from. So I was a city clerk actually for 22 years before I ran for mayor. So no, that's the furthest thing from my mind was being a city administrator. It really wasn't. So it just kind of happened that way. I had no idea.
What's the story about what made you decide to run the first time?
Actually, my predecessor kind of followed the same track that I did. He was a city clerk for 16 years, and then he was the mayor for 20 years. I was the city clerk for 22 years, and then the mayor for 20 years. So he decided he was going to retire. So I said, if I ever have a chance to run for mayor, I better do it now. And there was no way I was ever going to run against him
Yeah.
because I respected him so much and I could have never beat him anyway. So when he said he was going to retire, I said, "Well, I better go for it right now." So that's when I decided to run.
Did
So
did, did you win by a wide margin?
I did have a good percentage. I did. I'm not bragging, but I did. And politics has changed now. You really had to go beat the bushes. There wasn't any social media or uh, things like that. You just had to knock on doors and hand out those little bitty cards and said, "Would you vote for me?" People won't, in a small town, they want you to ask them,
That's
a lot
right.
of times beg them to vote for you. If you don't go by and see them or knock on the door, they're not going to vote for you. So I just about knocked on every door in this town, and I was fortunate and blessed to win the first time. I've served 20 years, so I had an opponent two times, and I ran unopposed three times. So I was very lucky, very blessed. I was.
Well, that worked out pretty well. How many people were in McGee when you first ran?
Probably about 2,500.
And what
And
is
we
it now?
grew, and how many? We grew to about almost 5,000. And then after COVID, we started dropping down. A lot of people died, and people don't realize how many people died in Mississippi
Yeah,
from COVID. So I worked on actually four census. You take them every 10 years.
yeah.
So I did 70, 80, 90, 2000. And then even after I retired, they asked me to serve on a committee to help them a little bit. So, uh, and people don't want to be counted, number one. And then, but actually, it started going down. And I think there's probably about 3,800 now. So we've lost a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, COVID being probably one of the biggest reasons.
But now your industrial base has grown a good bit, hadn't
It has. It really has. We've had some new industries that's moved here, and the hospital's grown up until a few years ago, and then the sportsplex has brought in a lot of people, and the eateries, and we've had some couple of motels that's come our way because we're a straight shot to the gambling
it?
casinos. So
That's right.
people don't want to go all the way, so they'll stop here and rest a while before they go down there. So we're fortunate. We've had some nice growth. We really have.
Spend a little time before they go lose all their money.
That's exactly right. We'll take it. We'll take their money anytime. That's right.
Now, Jimmy, when did you start playing trumpet?
Actually, Jim, I think I was about 12 years old. My dad he played trumpet. That's the way my mom and dad met. He was in the Army band
Ah,
and he was stationed in Jackson, and that's the way they met. So he bought our first horn for $5. And so I was about 12 years old when I first started playing. The first valve had a tiddlywink. Oh, you remember tiddlywinks, that
yeah.
game? Well, we had a tiddlywink, and I still have that horn. You can't play it anymore, but it's a keepsake. So I was about 12 years old when I first started playing, and he quit playing. But when I started playing, he started playing a little bit. So uh, that's when I first started, and I still play. Play just about every day, a little
Well,
bit.
I do too. I take about an hour at 4 o'clock every afternoon and go upstairs and turn it up loud where I can hear it and play along with just about everything there is to play along with.
Yeah, me too. Sounds just like me. It don't matter what kind of music it is. It can be, but that's exactly what I do. I don't practice. I just play.
Yeah, that's it. And the only people that ever get to hear me are my wife and my dog, but
Exactly.
they
And
don't
I
run
hear
away.
doors.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
don't run
I hear
away,
doors
so I'm
closing.
happy.
Exactly.
So, who was your first teacher? Was it your dad?
He started me, and I took some private lessons from a man, Sonny Hill, used to work for Wright Music Company, and I took some. You remember? Well, brass players had a book called the Arbin Book,
Oh yeah,
a big old book, and
yeah.
that gives you fundamentals. So I took a little while with him, but I was bad not to practice back in those days. So they said, if you're not going to practice, we're not paying for the lesson. So it ended after a little while, but he was a great, great teacher. He was. So I took for a little while from him, and then I went to Peoples, and then Provine. We had a great high school band. So thankful to be in that high school band, and then of course I went to Hines. I had to go the JUCO route, and then I went to Ole Miss.
Now, I didn't know Hines had a band, did they?
Oh yes, we played for those wonderful Hines High Steppers.
You know,
Yeah,
that's right. I'd forgotten about the High Steppers. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. We did. We'd
Those
march to the 20-yard line and play for them, but we
and
had
stand
lips
and
of.
play.
That's right. We had iron lips, boy. We could play all day and all night, but yeah, we did. But we had some great musicians, though.
Oh, I can
We did.
imagine.
Yeah,
I can imagine. Music was pretty big in Jackson Public Schools then.
it was. It was. Had some great bands, We did.
It it was one of the things that sort of changed my life, I think, a good bit was getting involved in first in the Boy Scouts and then in the band program. First at
Right.
Hardy and then at Provine. And I never expressed really a real interest in music one way or the other. And one day, Daddy brought home a saxophone and a trombone, and handed the saxophone to me and trombone to my brother. And he said, "Here, y'all gonna play these." And, and
You didn't have a choice.
we didn't argue too much with him about it one way or the other. But my brother messed around and he took lessons on the trombone for about a month, I guess. And then he told Mama, he said, "Mama, you got to tell Daddy, my arms are just too short. I can't do this." So,
Well, I just knew the trumpet was for me because he played it.
yeah.
And about 2 Sundays ago, I had a chance to play with my grandson in church. And I never got a chance to play with my dad as long as he played. And it was very rewarding. It was a special moment for me to play with him. It
How
was.
old is he?
He's in the ninth grade.
That's
He is.
great.
So and I think he's going to follow those footsteps. I think he's headed to North Mississippi
Is that
himself
right?
because, yeah, I think so. And I've pushed him a little bit. Told him to wear his Ole Miss shirt to church, and he did.
That's great. I know you'll be his biggest fan when he gets
Exactly.
up there. Uh, what part did music play in getting you into college? Any?
A big part because you mentioned Dr. Ferguson. He flew down, and you talking about somebody got a big head. When he flew down in that airplane and said, "You guys come here and let you listen. I want to hear you play."
Yeah,
And then the band director talked to him, and then he says, "I got you some of that NLI or NIL money or that little scholarship." And we thought we had gone to heaven
yeah,
because that was a difference maker for us. It really was because we knew we wanted to go. And the big thing for me was I had to wait 2 years to get that money. And I didn't know if he was going to wait on me, because I had to go to Hines for 2 years before I went to Ole Miss, but it was there. And he came through on his deal. And of course, he just stayed a year and then he was off to Alabama,
right,
but the money was still there, and I was so grateful for that. And then we were so grateful that we had Uncle Sam to fill in that other gap when, to help us some more. People don't know how hard it was to make it, in college with when you're trying to make it on your own a little bit. But that helped a lot too, and to enjoy yourself and doing what you're doing and it being music
and
it so much.
and just for anybody watching that doesn't know, we didn't use Uncle Sam the government. We had Uncle
Right.
Sam the rock and roll band, and
Yeah, it wasn't a student loan, was it?
yeah. And we spent our weekends traveling to fraternity and sorority parties and this and that and the other. And I was so glad to discover that people actually paid us to do what we probably would have done for free. But
Exactly.
it
Exactly.
worked
I'm
out
glad you
great.
clarified that.
And I never would have finished college if it hadn't been for the money we made on those weekends. If I remember right, it averaged out to about $100 a weekend, which, at
Exactly.
that
I think
time
you're right.
was we thought we were rock gods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We thought we were better than what we were, and we looked better than what we were.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. Yeah. So, what are some of the stories you remember, Jimmy, about playing some of those parties?
Well, I guess a couple of them was, we played continuously. There was never any break. I mean, it was
Right.
four sets, and we had a bass player that you remember, Bobby Surratt, that had these wild and crazy ideas. And there was a song called "We Were Only Sweethearts" by Boz Scaggs,
Yeah.
and he had this wild idea that somebody needed to dress up like a woman and dance around it with the band while we played that song. So guess who got that card? It was me. So I knew people were laughing. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me, and I knew that, but I still did it because I just wanted to be a part of that group, and I didn't want to get a pink slip, if you know what I mean. So that was one thing, and then I think when you get to be a rock god, as you said, everybody wants to be a singer, and I remember that one time that we had a singer that was out or something, and we all tried to pick up a song or two to sing. So I volunteered my services again for a James Gang song called Funk 49.
I remember the song.
You remember the song?
Yeah.
Well, we practiced it over by the Handy Andy where you used to live, and I got it down pretty good. It was presentable. It really was. So, and I was really feeling good about myself. I combed my good long locks good, and I got this big introduction about we're featuring one of our horn players now on this James Gang song. So I got up there to the microphone, and nothing came out. I mean, it was zero, nothing. And thank goodness Billy could fill in for anything. So I kind of slid back under the stage and kind of sang the backup. I never volunteered to sing anything else again because I was afraid that I'd get a pink slip, the next time. So, you just got to be careful what you ask for. So I've just figured that it wasn't my call to be a singer. I just fill in
I
on "Hey Baby," I guess.
I knew it wasn't mine either. I would try every once in a while, in the songs where there was a chorus or something to add my own little version of harmony or something. And most of the time, the guitar player Calvin would look at me and go, "Don't do that. Don't do that."
But it just gets in you to think I can just get out there and stand in front of everybody with this big band behind me and do it. But it just wasn't mine. It wasn't me, I guess. I don't know, but I still sing in the choir at church, and I guess but there's 40 more people there with me, and they had my voice too. But for that, it just didn't work for me.
There's safety in numbers.
It is. It is. It is.
So, have you told your children and grandchildren any of those stories?
Yeah, my kids, my parents, I guess we're a sixth generation rock band, Uncle Sam band. They know everything. They do. Even my great grandchildren are coming up with the band. He got a little plastic trumpet for Christmas this year, so they do. And the two that live up there that better than the other one, they try to come to everything that we do.
Oh,
Even
they do.
they my parents love the band. I remember we were learning that. Does anybody really know what time it is? And I was learning it at home. And you remember how we had to learn it with the arm to the and pick out the notes ourselves. And I was at home, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and my dad came in there, and he said, "Would somebody please tell that guy what time it is?" They all loved it. My kids, grandkids, great grandkids. It's just a family deal. They do, and they know to me. They make room for me. They know how important it is to me and how important you guys are to me too. So they give me a lot of slack, probably more than I deserve.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that old record player for a long time. I don't know whose it was, but I'm sure we ruined it. And every record we had, picking that tone arm up and putting it back down, trying to catch that one spot just one more time. Now, how did
One more
that
time.
go again? Yeah.
Did you get it? Did you write it down?
Yeah, that's right. And did you memorize this yet?
Yeah,
I
that's right.
still I still can't believe I had 4 hours worth of music memorized.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And now
And
when we play, we all got stands and music, and yeah, it's
and
amazing.
forget why we come into a room.
Yeah, or what's for dinner?
And I do remember uh, playing at the Elks Lodge in Jackson. What about 15 years ago, 20 years ago?
Uh
And
huh.
that was the first time I remembered anybody having to help anybody else up on the stage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true.
But I am going to write a sequel to our Uncle Sam story, and I've already decided on the title to it, Jimmy. It's going to be it was about the time we all started wearing hats.
Yeah. And I was one of the first ones.
Well, said uh, going back just a little bit, what was your plan B if you hadn't won the election?
Well, I should have had one, Jim, but I didn't. And it wasn't that I was overconfident or anything, because when a new administration comes in, nobody has a job. Nobody's guaranteed a job or nothing. And to tell you the truth, I'd have probably been out on the street if I wouldn't have won. But I didn't. I just put every effort that I had. And at that time, I was teaching swimming lessons after work. So I was just, I was just all into what I was doing, and I didn't have a plan B. So I guess I trusted the Lord to say, if you don't want me to have it, I guess you'll provide something for me, because I didn't have a plan B. Because that is so prevalent in elections now that, new guys bring their people in and you're out. So,
But we're sort of
uh,
seeing that on a national level now, aren't we?
right. Yeah. Yeah. More. Yes. Exactly. And it don't matter if you can do your job or if you're doing it well. It's just the way of the times. But I didn't have a plan B. I didn't, and that's probably what would have happened. But I was fortunate that I got a pretty sounding, and the guy's nice, and he still lives here, and that's just the way it is.
Well, that's
I
pretty
didn't plan
amazing.
very well.
No, that's pretty amazing that you had the faith to jump out on that limb and hope it didn't break.
Yeah, that's true. Might be stupid, huh?
No, I don't think so. So, what do you think? What do you see as some of the successes of your career as mayor that you remember the most?
Uh, well, I think, I mentioned that the highway comes through here, but our city was built on downtown. So one of the things is we completely revitalized downtown.
Yeah.
We put new sidewalks and pavements and signage and everything. So we revitalized downtown. And then thinking about the storm that came through, when in our administrations, we got emergency warning signals. We never had those before. And those play a big role. A lot of people depend on that. And we
Down there.
really, yeah, not only outside but inside. And then we established emergency management. We never had that. And of course, there was a section on there with pandemic, but we always skipped that. And look what happened. But that was after I left. So that was real important. Uh, Also, we did some major drainage things through town. It was about $2 million worth of drainage. Anytime you get water in your house, that's bad. So we did a lot of drainage, railroad crossings. We had 14 railroad crossings that came through
Goodness.
town. Kids trying to get home or get someplace. I mean, we had a lot of deaths. Ladies come up getting. So we work with the railroad to get the cross arms and stuff. So we close one if they put the cross arms up. So that worked out good. Uh, we survived Hurricane Katrina and got back to normal. That hit us hard, and then we had a tornado that came through here. That we had a job there, and I couldn't go because a tornado hit
That's
us, and
right.
there's no way I could leave when the tornado hits your water plant. So I think that was in 2008 or something, but I missed the job. But boy, that was hard. Uh, but we survived that. We got several state and federal grants for infrastructure improvements. People don't see it, but it helps you because it improves your fire insurance rating. We paved a lot of streets each year. And then we built a sportsplex because kids didn't have a place to play. It was just tough, but we built the sportsplex. We built a playground in 7 days with donated material and donated labor,
That's
which
great.
was really good for the community and good for your morale of the community. Uh, we established a YMCA and kept it open for 20 years. Uh, we worked with state and county and school officials on worthwhile projects. When you're small, you got to somehow. The school needs a sidewalk. They don't have the money. Well, they got a little money and we got the labor. So you just kind of find a way to make things work. The Boswell Regional Centers, we got a building, but they don't have a building. They got people that can make things work for Desert Storm. So you just find things to make it work. We were considered the healthiest hometown in 2016 because we just did a lot of things to make it healthy. We passed the no smoking ordinance. We built some things with walking tracks and different things like that, which I guess I ended up well. I was elected the president of the Mississippi Municipal League, which is all the mayors, clerks, aldermen of the state of Mississippi, which got to eat and be with a lot of big time people. So it was a great opportunity for me uh, in my city to be associated with those. Does is it works getting public officials on what they need to do to be better.
I
So
bet that was a wild convention, city clerks and mayors, wasn't
oh yeah, there's some people that's got some yeah they there's some ego. I was out of my league big time,
it? So,
but
what
I guess they saw me for 40 years. Who's that guy sitting in the back? Maybe he would. And it worked out. It really did. I was humbled to say that for me and my wife because we got to go to Washington several times, and it was
a place like Washington will make you happy to be home, won't it?
cool. And I got to do 1 day things too, which were they having a meeting on some legislation or something. You
Yeah,
and come back the same day. Yeah,
that's
yeah. I
great.
got my fill of flying pretty quick.
I bet you did. Now, what were some of the headaches you had to deal with? What was the biggest thing, the one that made you, oh my Lord, not again?
People. Well, when you're washing your car and I didn't do this, I got 2 tickets for this and that. And, people, you don't mind talking to people, but there's a place to do this. church is probably the hardest place. That's really, you when my street's going to get paved or my garbage can. They picked the garbage up, but they didn't set the can back up. And I mean, you're sitting in a funeral and they're fixing to roll the casket down. Or when they come to your house, the work that's your wife.
Yeah.
And we finally, about after 18 years, I didn't want to tell a story, but I named the room. I'm going to Mount Olive, and I'd be standing in the den. It's just, I said, just tell them I'm going to Mount Olive. But, there wasn't any cell phones for a long time. So,
Yeah. Thank
but,
goodness.
there's a certain, yeah, our mayor went to deer camp every weekend. But
I would imagine
uh,
that does
you
get
live in
old.
a glass house, yeah, and it's 24/7, 7 days a week.
That's right.
It's like being a teacher.
Late night, early
My kids
morning.
get calls, right, 10 o'clock at night about why my kid not doing well. I know, we all know the drill. When you in that profession, that's what happens. It's
Well,
okay. But sometimes it does get on you.
I do want you to know that one of my bucket list items is go down to McGee and see the Jimmy Clyde Sports Complex.
I'm happy for the kids and I'm happy we were able to do that.
How many
We did
sports are
that
played
through
there, Jimmy?
uh, baseball, softball, soccer, and football.
No
The
frisbee.
high school, no, we ain't got that far, but we are building. They are building some pickleball courts,
Oh,
but not there. And there is a splash pad there
oh,
too.
really? I
Yeah,
probably
there
wouldn't
is.
take advantage of that. I'd scare all your citizens
No,
off.
yeah, that you probably wouldn't. It's for little tykes. Yeah,
Yeah,
you'd be surprised how much those things cost.
I know I
The
wouldn't. I
splash pad.
understand.
It's amazing.
I've
Yeah,
seen the
and there's a
concrete.
yeah, and there's a playground there, so there's something for everybody. It really is.
That's great. Well, Jimmy, what advice do you have for somebody that wants to be a small town mayor?
I think you got to be willing to serve others. You got to have a servant's heart. It's kind of like being a teacher or a preacher or something like that. It really is. You can't get in it for yourself. You got to be want. You got to do it for somebody else. If you see a fire truck going down the street or in addition to a library, I was part of that. You want to just do it for somebody else.
Yeah,
Just got to have a servant's heart. One of the greatest I guess, satisfactions that I had was a little mayor's youth council that I had. The school would get me names of kids, and we would meet every month. I'd get representatives and senators come talk to them. We'd have meetings, and to see, I still got their names in my phone uh, about them and to see where they are now. Some of them, one of them's an editor at the newspaper. There's nurses and teachers and different things like that. But it's not about you. It's about
right.
making life better for somebody else. That's basically what it is. And it's sure not about the money.
No, I
That's
know that.
and it's just
Well,
like a
Jimmy, I appreciate you talking with me today. And it's always good to talk to you. Um, I will notify you when I put this out and let all your children and grandchildren laugh at us.
Okay, that's good. Well, they
Good to
just
see you, my
will.
friend.
You too. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Okay.